the Prefidious Prototype. Nowadays, on the island of Sodor, many of the engines have been made famous characters, all thanks to the Reverend Wilbur Awdry's Railway Series books. Many people are familiar with the Railway Series for telling our stories about our various adventures and exploits. However, like all rewritten stories, not all of them are exactly true. Stories like Percy Takes a Plunge, for example, are stories that are very rewritten to give them more of a children's atmosphere. And some stories, like Thomas and Gordon, are completely fictional because, well, on a railway, think about it, events like this are very unlikely to happen. Many of us have asked the good Reverend why he wrote his books the way he did, and the answer is simple: to entertain children. Even though some of the fictional stories don't exactly picture us in a positive light. And some engines do get rather put off when the people ask them about these stories that never happened. However, some stories of the books are rooted entirely, or almost entirely in fact, because these stories were very inspiring, just like today's stories. This story focuses on our two Great Western engines, Oliver and Duck. Now, when Oliver and Duck first arrived on the island of Sodor, they weren't exactly positioned at a specific place. Their first few years on this railway, they were floaters, doing whatever job was needed because they were the only engines who were available to do so. You see, Duck and Oliver were purchased from the railway when Sir Topham Hatt II came into power. After the Second World War, Oliver and Duck's old branch line closed down. Sir Topham Hatt II, who took pity on them, decided to purchase them. However, that was pretty much the only reason why he bought them. You see, when engines are brought onto railways, they are shuffled around onto branch lines or main lines to do specific tasks. This way, the engines can be given schedules and routines so that they know what they're going to be doing throughout the day. Oliver and Duck didn't have designated roles, so they were just given jobs wherever they're needed to be doing. One week, they can be seen working in the coal mines. The next week, they can be seen working on the Farquhar branch, where Thomas and Percy would work at. And yet another week, they could be seen working as station pilots for various different stations around the railways. Now, you might be thinking that this is a very good idea since it can show Oliver and Duck's versatility in many ways, in which it does. However, it's not as much of an asset as you think. Being that Duck and Oliver don't necessarily have any kind of roles, it's no guarantee what kind of job they're going to do, whether it be shunting, pulling trucks, pulling passenger trains, or being station pilots. These kinds of conditions can often cause engines to be very confused and tired, and they often lead to silly mistakes. Some being more serious than others, like Oliver bringing a rack of coaches to a goods station. But the time I'm thinking, it was especially bad. Oliver was at Kildane pushing a train of trucks onto the turntable, but he was very tired. He'd just gotten back from Vickerstown and was put to work right away. Oliver could barely concentrate and almost fell asleep. Oliver, wake up! Oliver's eyes shot open as he realized he was headed for the turntable, and the table wasn't set on his track yet. Oliver slammed on his brakes, but it was too late. Everyone in the yard was silent. Until a workman finally spoke. "You silly engine! You broke the turntable! That'll take days to fix!" "Well, I'm in for an earful." And that he was. That night at the shed, Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to the little green engine. "Oliver, explain this cock-up to me now." "I'm sorry, sir. I've just been tired and stressed. All this going back and forth floating is really taking a toll on my brain." "Oliver, I listen to my engines when they have grievances. That is my job. You should have told me you were tired. If not, I wouldn't have made you work for so many hours." "I'm sorry, sir. However, you might just receive a sudden career change." "How so, sir?" Duck asked. "Allow me to explain. Recent chemical studies of the soil and rocks around west of Arlesburg have determined that there is lots of oil around the area. Hearing this news, British Railways now wants to open a branch line east of Arlesburg." "But why, sir? I mean, sure, we get greased up when we go to the steamworks so we can run smoothly, but we don't need oil to function." "That is because British Railways is now launching a new fleet of diesel-powered trains. And a new oil refinery at Augsburg will be sure to make the railway lots of money. And its lovely beaches and scenery is sure to attract a lot of passengers. And on the topic of British Railways creating diesel engines, it is launching one of its very first prototypes, and it is coming to the island in just about a week. That's a lot of news, sir. May I ask who will be running that branch line, sir? Well, you see, Duck, this construction isn't happening until for a long while. They want to see how well this new prototype works on the railway. And if he proves his worth, they will continue the construction for the branch line. So as you can see, Oliver, your cock-up doesn't make you a good contender so far. Understood, sir. Now I just have to tell the mainline crew about this, and I finally told everyone. Good night, you two. Don't look so sad, Oliver. Sir Matt knows you're useful. I know that, Montague, but now he probably thinks I'm a careless engine. I'll never be able to go on that branch line. Don't worry, Oliver. There's always a chance at redemption. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have made it through your first day on the GWR. You're absolutely right about that, Monty. About a week later, the new engine came to Sodor, and he was a sight to behold. This new engine was nothing like the others. He wasn't steam-powered, and he wasn't even circle. And on top of all that, this engine didn't even have a whistle. It had a horn. He blared the horn as he came onto the turntable to introduce himself. Hello there. Who are you? I am glad you asked, Henry. This here is Diesel. He is the newest and probably the most modern prototype that British Railways has made. He is one of the first diesel-powered locomotives in Britain. British Railways has sent him here to do a complete trial run to see if he is the ideal prototype to make new diesel-powered locomotives. And if he is, not only will he stay here, but British Railways will create a new fleet of diesel-powered locomotives. That indeed, sir. I am absolutely humbled to be working on the fabled island of Sodor. I've heard all about you. The engines were very flattered, present company included. Why, he is so polite, the other engines said. And it was true. This engine was one of the most polite guests we've had on Sodor. Sidmouth sheds glimmered with smiley faces. That was, except for Oliver, who seemed to be rather mad. Now, I'm sure you have lots of questions you would like to ask Diesel, but I would like to leave that to him, perhaps tonight in the sheds. I'm sure he would love to give you many answers. Would you, Diesel? Of course, sir. I don't boast, but I certainly would love to give details of the merits of British Railways and dieselization. Right then. Your first assignment will be with my green number 8, Duck, over there in the shed. Indeed, sir. I'll happily teach Diesel the ways of the Northwestern Railway. But right after Duck said that, Oliver got his attention to talk to him. Be careful, Monty. I know deviousness when I see it, and I think that engine's full of it. Oh, don't be such a negative Nancy, Oliver. I'm sure he's fine. Right then, Duck. I would like you to take Diesel here to Knapford Harbor so you can teach him around the yachts. He needs to first learn how to shunt. You got that, Diesel? Indeed, sir. Come on, Duck. I'm eager to get my buffers busy. And with a toot of his whistle, Duck jumped out of his sheds. And just a little bit later, Diesel went off of the turntable and followed him to Knapford Harbor. A while later, Diesel and Duck were headed to Knapford Harbor, where Duck was giving Diesel multiple tips on how to shunt on the way there. Diesel was finding it very annoying. Does this engine ever stop blabbing about whatever? But Diesel was being very ignorant. He didn't take a single word of Duck's advice and just brushed it off like nothing. Alas, when they reached the yard, Diesel lost patience. So when arranging multiple trains at a time, you want to organize the trains from left to right schedule-wise so that you can... Do you ever shut up? Duck was super shocked and also very put off. My oh my, that was certainly uncalled for, Diesel. Where did your manners go? Yes, well, I gave up on that because you keep lecturing me and giving me lessons like I'm some kind of toddler. I'm trying to give you tips. Besides, you're fresh out of the works. You don't know anything about shunting or railway life at this point, so you need help. Need I remind you that's why we came to the yard in the first place? That is the problem. Your worthy fat controller has us diesels all wrong. The reason why we were built is to revolutionize the yards, modernize the railways. We don't need help. We know everything. We can do anything. We are revolutionary. Duck was getting very irritated with Diesel's attitude. He wanted to find a way to pay him out, but then a cheeky idea struck him right in the funnel. Very well then, Diesel. If you can truly improve this yard, then you wouldn't mind arranging my train for me, now would you? Very well then, where is your train? It's all those trucks over there on siding 5. They need to be put into siding 2. I have to take them over to Crosby. Ha, that's easy. Watch, Ducky, as I prepare your train and make you wallow in your own failure. A big grin crept up Duck's face as the Diesel went off to collect the trucks. It should be pretty apparent that Duck is trying to play a trick with those trucks, but the question is, what's wrong with the trucks? Well, just like the Railway series, these trucks were very old and very rusty. They were amongst one of the first batches of trucks that the Railway has ever purchased, so that'd make them about 80 years old at least. In fact, they were so old that the brake shoes were so rusty that the workmen couldn't find any kind of way to loosen them up. They were latched onto the trucks hard and needed to be moved by crane. So the workmen placed a giant sign on the side of the trucks warning crews and engines to stay away from the trucks and not to touch them. But of course, with Diesel being Diesel, he didn't even see the sign as he backed down onto the trucks. He backed down onto the trucks hard, causing them to groan in pain. Ooh! Ooh! They winced. Diesel coupled up and tried to pull the trucks out of the siding, but he couldn't. They wouldn't even budge. He started to move the trucks rapidly back and forward.
Oh! Ow!
They wailed.
That hurts! That hurts!
They kept on screaming, begging Diesel to stop. The Diesel growled, his engine straining more and more. Oh, what a fool! Duck yelled at a corner, but Diesel couldn't hear him. But then there was trouble. One of Diesel's trucks was finally starting to break apart. After a few creaks and cracks, it finally broke. The Diesel shot forward with one truck and eventually came to a halt. The second truck in line was completely shattered. Its pieces lay on the tracks. Duck was very surprised, but still very satisfied. He got what he wanted. The Diesel soon backed back down onto his train, very mad. Soon after that, Duck came around with a train behind him. Diesel was confused. He thought that the train he just broke was Duck's train, not the one behind him. What are you doing with that? Your train is right here. My train? Why would I want to carry a train of broken trucks? Duck asked. Broken trucks? What are you on about? Look to your left, Duck said. Diesel looked to his left and was embarrassed. Who knows everything now? Duck said. I bet you wish you took my tips earlier, Duck said as he trundled off of his goods train. Diesel had been played for a fool. It took a minute for Diesel to find a crane, but he was rightfully blamed for the accident. It took the workmen a while to load the remains of the truck back into another truck to take to the scrapyard. But what made the job all the more arduous were the trucks. They were laughing and singing at Diesel, and I think you know what's coming next. Cars are waiting in the yard, tackling them with easel. Show the world what I can do, gaily boasts the Diesel. In and out he creeps about, like a big black weasel. When he pulls the wrong cars out, pop goes the Diesel. Growled Diesel. He knew that the trucks would never ever let this up, and they truly wouldn't. A whole week later, the freight cars were still singing about Diesel's misfortunes. Every truck where Diesel went, the trucks would sing and laugh at him. Knock it off! A rough week, eh, Diesel? Those trucks really aren't letting up. What happened to you, mate? No, Henry, I'm going just fine, thank you very much. It's all experience, lad. Those trucks play tricks on everyone. It's all about how you handle them. Soon they won't stop playing tricks on you. But don't be surprised if some just don't give up, though. The trucks that made me crash on me first day wouldn't stop letting up almost a whole month. It's all that silly Great Western git Duck. He played a trick on me and made all those trucks laugh at me. It's his fault. Maybe the Fat Controller should get him sent away. What nonsense. Duck and Oliver might be cheeky at times, but to think Duck of all engines would play such a trick on a new engine, it's disgraceful, disgusting, despicable, disrespectful. What, I can't join along? Anyway, the point is, don't blame others because of your misfortune. Who knows, if Duck really did play a trick on you, that means maybe I'm not the engine that we thought. Let that sink in his head, Henry. Now come on, we have bigger fish to fry, more important things to do, said Gordon, and the other engines followed in his footsteps, leaving away. Bigger engines left away. Diesel thought a naughty trick in his head. A trick that would get Duck sent away. A trick that would finally get him some payback for the trick with the trucks. The next day, the Diesel slinked into the yard with a devious grin on his face. Do you remember that joke you played on me about a week ago? I'd be lying if I didn't say I found it quite funny. I laughed and I laughed away. I love a good joke just as much as you lot. In fact, that joke was almost as funny as something Duck told me about the bigger engine.
Ooh, what did Duck say?
The trucks asked. Ooh, I probably shouldn't tell you. Duck told me in secret, plus it would make him, the bigger engines, and a lot of other people very angry.
Don't worry, we won't tell anyone. Honest.
The trucks said. Very well then, I will trust you. First, he said something about Gordon. He called him and the big slimy weasel was telling the trucks a bunch of stories about Duck calling the other big engines names. But obviously these stories were a lie. Diesel's plan was to tell these fake stories to the trucks in hopes that they would keep it secret. But knowing the truck's behavior, they wouldn't keep it secret and tell the other engines, in turn getting Duck in trouble. I trust my secret is kept with you lot. Anyway, I must be off. And the Diesel slinked out of the yard with his masked grin, hoping that his plan would go into action. As he left, the trucks cackled with laughter.
As if that brute could trust us. Let's spread his little secrets,
The trucks said. Disgraceful! Disgusting! I mean, it is despicable, but something's not right, lads. What isn't right, Henry? I think we're jumping to conclusions too quick here, lads, don't you think? I mean, it's not in character for Duck to say such things about the others. Who else could it be, Henry? That little green shoebox and that other green goblin are always hanging around those trucks all the time in the yard. How are you guys so sure it even is Duck? Just think for a few minutes, Joey. Who else do you think it could be? What about Diesel? He's been around the yard a lot, too. What if he told the trucks those stories? From what I've seen of that engine, he is very polite. And being a new prototype, I highly doubt he'd want to spoil his reputation so bad if he fouls up. That doesn't guarantee he always is pleasant. Joey has a point. Appearances can be deceiving. So it doesn't bother you that that an engine called you old square wheels and you a black sewage tank? Sticks and stones. So you just suggest we don't do anything about it? Just let them keep going? Of course we should. And what we're gonna do is when he comes here after a long day's work, we're gonna weesh him out of the sheds. Gordon, no, we're not doing that. That's immature. Henry's right. If we're gonna ask him, we need to do it calmly. We need to be the bigger engine. All in favor of weeshing Duck? Aye. 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 All opposed? Nay. Nay. Well, you're gonna do it. You're out of luck. I'm not sticking around for this. I'm going to Tidmouth. Come on, Joey. Let's go. You coming with me? Oh, I'm right behind you, Henry. I better not hear about this when you guys get back. If only the big engines were more mature, honestly. At about 11 o'clock, Duck was finally headed back from a very hard day's work. He was very tired. He was hoping to have a nice rest in this nice cozy shed, but oh boy would he be disappointed. Duck made it back all the way to Tidmouth's sheds and was finally up at the turntable. But as Duck mounted onto the turntable, he was in for a very big surprise. Whee! Keep out! Duck was startled from such weeshing. What is going on? I want to get to my shed. I'm tired. Yeah, and we're tired of your name-calling, Duck. Name-calling? What are you lot on about? Don't act so innocent, Duck. The trucks told us everything. We heard every single name you called us. I'm tired of this nonsense. Now just let me in. I'm tired. Kiss my bunker, you great western git. What? What did you call me? You're not just a Got him! Oh, Sir Topham, thank goodness. Will you please get this savage out of our sheds? And will you please tell these engines to pull the other coupling? I will ask you on both sides what on earth is going on. I was just in my bed getting ready to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden I hear all this noise. Right. I will first ask you, Gordon, what is going on? What did Duck do? Duck called me a galloping sausage. He called me a rusty red scrap iron. Called me the one-wheeled bandit. And called me a 10-wheeled abomination. My, oh my, Duck. What do you have to say to this? Did you call the engines these names? I can most assure you, sir, I did not. For an engine to say such things about his companions and friends is simply disgraceful, and it is most certainly not the Great Western way. Oh, for heaven's sake, Great Western this, Great Western that. I don't know if you've noticed, Duck, but none of us here are Great Western. Just then, Diesel rolled up, acting oblivious as to what just happened. Diesel, good. We need a third opinion. Now, what do you make of your experience with Duck last week? Well, sir, to think Duck of all engines would do such a heinous act, I am dreadfully grieved, sir. He was such a good instructor when he was teaching me around the yard. I'm afraid I know nothing about this, Duck name-calling situation, but I will tell you something else, sir. It was Duck who instructed me to move those trucks that were meant to be taken by crane. Is this true, Duck? Were you the one who told Diesel to move those quarantined trucks? Duck couldn't come up with the right words. He did give Diesel the wrong trucks to shunt, but that was only because he was trying to pay him out. He tried to tell this to the Fat Controller, but the Fat Controller had had enough. Duck, you are not yet at fault for the name-calling, but giving Diesel quarantine trucks is simply unacceptable. Wait, sir, please, I have reason, just let— No! I'm sending you to Edward's branch line until you've learned your behavior and until this issue is resolved. Are you sending me away, sir? Please, I have reason. I did it because— Duck, go! As you wish, sir, Duck said sadly with tears coming out of his eyes. So with tear-filled eyes and tear-stained footplate, Duck trundled sadly off to Edward's station. The Diesel had gotten away with this trick, and it also wouldn't be his last.